Conversations in Anarchy. This is Catherine Bleich. I'm so excited to have you here today because we are talking about my favorite subject, health. I am so excited about health and how it relates to anarchy, and I'm really excited that you're here to participate in this dialogue with us. I am Anarchapulco's co-producer for Anarchapulco 2020, and I manage all things health and wellness, the Anarch Awaken stage and the practitioner space, and all sorts of really cool things that are taking place this year with Anarchapulco. We are really doing some innovative things in the health space, and today I am joined by two of my favorite people and two of Anarchapulco's most important contributors, David and Angel. David, would you please introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm David Rodriguez, helping manage the Family Camp stage this year, also a co-author of The Anarchist Guide to the Galaxy, freedom lover in general, principal of a private school to help kids accelerate the graduation and get out of the school system. And hey, I'm learning about health. I'm more pro freedom for health. So I'm really excited about this conversation and engaging you all. And I want to introduce you to Angel.
Thank you, David. I'm Angel. I am the editor of the Anarchist Guide to the Galaxy, one of the editors on the Anarchapulco blog, and I am helping David to produce the Free Your Family Camp. And we're thinking up all kinds of wonderful things for all your kids, so bring them out. This is an interesting topic because as you grow as a person, as you evolve, you really start to pay attention to your health. And so I'm really happy that we are going to get into it today and maybe learn from each other.
Yes, awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for everyone who is tuned in on all of our streams. We are live on Facebook, DLive, YouTube, Twitch. We are streaming all over the internet. And for those of you that are here in the Zoom chat room, we are so excited that you are here. Please be sure to type your questions and comments in whatever stream that you are participating on. We have moderators paying attention, and we want to welcome you to become part of the dialogue. So I'm going to go over some housekeeping before we really get started and get into the meat of it. First and foremost, we're going to try to keep this conversation around an hour. If things are really jamming, and sometimes they are, we will continue past that hour mark. We want to be welcoming to everybody who is joining us and participating in this conversation. And it is really important that even if you disagree with somebody, that we adhere to the principles of nonviolent communication. We really want to speak kindly to one another here in this dialogue, in this conversation. So the purpose of Conversations in Anarchy is to help create community and to give each of us a place to share our thoughts and ideas about the best ways to live anarchy, which today we're talking about related to health. We're not going to be solving all the world's problems on this call, but we are planting seeds and we are seeking solutions, and we want to hear from you and your ideas. So first, we're going to start by talking about some key points with David and Angel. And we are going to be looking to questions and comments from the rest of you when we open the floor in the last half hour. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you indicate in the chat if you would like to say something. If you are in the Zoom, that means you can actually speak with your camera or over audio microphone. And in all the other platforms, you can type in your questions and we will do our best to get to them. We love to hear from you, so please chime in and let us know where you are in the world. We have a global audience, and I am always impressed by the intercontinental nature of our audience. So right now, if you can, type in the chat box where you are tuning in from. We want to know. Now listen, if you are in the Zoom, you don't have to turn on your camera if you're not comfortable with it, but we do love to see your face. Verity and Belize, hello, happy to see you. More and more people are turning on their cameras every single week, and that is really fun for us. It helps us to get to know each other before we all end up in person. I see Kelly's in Arizona. Welcome, welcome. I see Ken in Acapulco. The chats are coming in. So welcome, thank you. We are using as a read along our ebook. David mentioned it, The Anarchist Guide to the Galaxy. If you do not have a copy, go to anarchapulco.com and download your copy. Angel in Texas, I'm in Texas as well. Okay. Oh, Kelly's actually in Acapulco. I said she's from Arizona, but she's not in Arizona. She's in Acapulco. So Acapulco represents. Okay, with that being said, today we are going to be talking about anarchy and health. Some of the conversation topics that we want to try to hit are GMOs and food safety, organics, vegetarian and veganism, or if you're a carnivore, we're open to discussing that as well. Processed foods, yoga and movement, and a healthy lifestyle overall. So first and foremost, I thought it would be a really good idea to get an overall view of how anarchy and health are interrelated. Angel, would you like to bring us there and give us a broad picture of why these two things matter to each other? You're on mute, Angel.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I've been thinking a lot about how anarchy relates to health and wellness, and we don't always think about how much, maybe if you're not an anarchist anyway, but we don't always think about how much the government plays a role in the foods we eat, the types of foods we eat, whether they're healthy or not, where we get our food from. And so there's a lot of education that has to happen in order for us to understand why we're eating the things we're eating. And that's why I'm glad you're here, Kat, because I know this is kind of your wheelhouse. But I look at it from the perspective of how the government is restricting the ways in which we can grow our food, consume food, and even the false trust that we put in the government to decide what's right for us. They are always telling us, that we need to eat this, and then the science changes and we need to eat that. And probably one of the worst effects of everyone looking toward the government for information about health is that when they're wrong, they get it wrong for all of us. And when they're wrong, they codify what's wrong into law. So it affects everyone. And so we're not seeing people on different diets and having different lifestyles pit against each other the way that we would in a free, decentralized network of people just kind of growing their own food, or maybe not necessarily growing their own food, but trying different things, making it easier for us to have organic foods, truly organic foods, making it easier to remove things like fluoride from our diet. And so that's really the way that I come at. We have to find ways to remove government from the processes so that we don't do this one size fits all, because definitely with health, that is not the way that it works. We need individualized care, and we need to be removing those things from our diets that are really harmful for us. And what works for you may not work for me, right? Gluten may work for you, or a vegan diet may work for you, or the carnivore diet may work for you, but it may not for me. So I want to see people looking all around the place, and not just like the FDA. I want to see them looking everywhere for information and being really aware and present and taking responsibility, because that's what anarchy means. Doesn't mean that you have to do everything by yourself, but it does mean you have to take responsibility and be educated. So that's really where I come at it. And I know David, who's on mute, I know David, that's something that you've been thinking about too. And I know you have a real bone to pick with the FDA.
Yeah, I'm actually a former health insurance broker. So I got to see kind of one side of the health system. And then I was in the biotech world for a while. And so on one of our business trips, we were back east. We went to like the U.S. Department of Agriculture and kind of got to go around and look at these buildings and try to get, what we had was a nutraceutical that was like anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and like really powerful tests behind it. And we're like trying to get permission from these bureaucrats in these buildings. And they're like, they got to give us the stamp of approval. And this was when I was listening to Ron Paul, but I was still trying to understand what really these guys do. And then now with my understanding about the state, these guys are intergenerational organized criminals. Not to say their humanity is disrespect, but their positions and the ring of power. We don't need you guys sitting in offices stamping applications saying this nutraceutical is acceptable and this one is not. And you mentioned like the recommended foods that these people recommend, like the food pyramid, right? And it's like at the bottom was grains, and at the top was like fat. And now it's like basically upside down. Now you want to have like a little bit of grains and carbohydrates and a lot of good fats. And forget the generation of kids or two that went through the school system and learned that this is the correct pyramid. And you have what, a bunch of obese, sadly, children, because they're following, you got to have 12 servings of grains and, 3 servings of fruits and vegetables. It's like, that's wrong. And you're mandating our kids be there under this threat of truancy laws. And you're giving them bad information, not just like in a local city, nationwide. So just having an understanding that the state, they're the coercive individuals, and so often they're wrong. So if we can remove ourselves from their authority, right, because that's the other definition of the state, is that it's a belief in authority. Someone else is responsible for your life. And there was a great metaphor someone gave me. He said, you have the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast. You got to have a statue of responsibility on the West Coast, because with freedom is responsibility. And this is the challenge where we're looking to these white coats and the people with the stethoscope, and we respect them because that's what we've been taught to do. We call them Dr. Jones and, please, give me your permission. But ultimately, we have to take responsibility for our lives and then for our consequences. If I eat a bad nutraceutical and then something bad happens to me, then I take responsibility, or maybe the manufacturer has some liability, whatever. But like this third party who says, hey, you have to eat these foods or you got to get permission to sell that. It's like, no, our particular product was a plant stem cell, and it was like super healthy and really powerful. And so it's like, we have a good product. This person wants to buy it. Who are you that's trying to stop us from bringing it in? Oh, and then you look at the recommended servings, like the agricultural business. Is it possible that there's financial interest in the grain business, or like you said, the dairy business, that want to sell their grains, they want to sell their milk, and so they're using their buddies in these offices of authority, of influence, of monopoly control? Are they using those offices to profit? Well, yes, they are. We know this, so we're calling them out on it, and to how to transcend, how to evolve beyond the state and the FDA and the USDA, and really step into the possibility that we are 100% responsible for our lives, what we eat, the consequences thereof. And then a kind of a side note is maybe like a voluntary co-op, like for health. I mean, this is kind of like health insurance related stuff, but like, we don't need you guys given permission for a license, right? I had to have an insurance license to sell a product. But it's like, I have a good product. They want to buy it. We don't need your permission. So just kind of this conversation is so powerful. Lastly is, we got to be healthy. As freedom lovers, voluntarists, anarchists, let's try to live a long life, not just 80, 90, try to go for 100 or 120 or something crazy. If it's possible, if these people in the jungle, they're living to like they're 120, eating the apricot seeds or whatever they're doing, I think it would be powerful. We can do that too, so we can also perpetuate freedom and have intergenerational freedom families.
I love that, David. And I think truly, last week we talked about money, and I think that is how a community becomes free, when you can trade and really support each other through the fruits of your labor. And health is how the individual becomes free. Because if you have political freedom and financial freedom, but your health is in disarray, you will never be free. So if we are talking about anarchy and we are talking about creating a voluntary society, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And that is ultimately the root of personal freedom, is taking care of yourself. And so all of these things matter. What food you're putting into your body, what has been done to the food that you're putting in your body, what types of medicines that you have access to, the type of lifestyle that you're living. Are you moving enough? Are you getting enough sunshine? Are you getting enough fresh air? I saw some comments coming in on the chat about, a lot of obesity might be coming from a nutritional deficiency where you can develop hypothyroidism, iodine, these different things. Are you paying attention to what's going on in your body and taking action to correct it? Or are you reaching up to authority figures and asking them to fix it for you? And that is what all of this institutionalized healthcare is. Ultimately, it's sick care. We are asking, not me, but the people of the United States in many ways and other countries all across the continent are asking the government to take care of their illness. What if instead we could prevent many of our illnesses and instead really work on health for ourselves? That can create a type of freedom that I don't think any of us have seen in terms of a cultural freedom in our lifetime. Because me, I'm in my mid-30s and I grew up in a society where food came in a box. Cheerios, ravioli, Iron Kids bread, all this very processed food. Thankfully, my parents always had a garden, and so that's kind of what got me into gardening. But when we are expecting a third party to provide and create health for us, we are essentially incapable of creating anarchy for ourselves. We are incapable of being free because we are abrogating that authority to somebody else. So health is really the root of freedom for the individual. So with that being said, the government currently across the globe, governments plural, they are intervening in our food supply, our water supply, our medicinal supply, all of these different facets of life. And before the call, we had a really interesting conversation in our pre-production, and Angel was bringing up the patenting of the food. And this is mind-blowing when you think about it, that corporations can actually file a patent on seeds. Angel, would you like to touch on that?
I mean, that's what you're saying. It's ridiculous. The way these companies use the government is so interesting. Everybody thinks that the government is here to protect people, and it would be nice if that's what they did, but because they have such incredible power, the worst people in society tend to try to use that power for enriching themselves and sometimes for just really hurting other people. And so patents in the farming industry are really interesting because they've been used by large companies in order to patent certain types of seeds. But then when other farmers in nearby areas, when there's cross-pollination and they start to grow those crops, they've actually used the patent laws to file lawsuits against farmers. And it's incredible. And these farmers don't, you could say it's a benefit, who knows, they might not be, they might be organic farmers. They might be trying to farm with, non-GMO products, and then they're forced to pay for what is an assault against their own farms. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting thing. And it's really the way, it really shows the intent. It really shows a lot of intent of these companies, that they're not here to
Angel,
eat us all.
Could you let everybody know what a GMO is?
A genetically modified, I guess food in this case, but organism. You should talk more about this, but so there are different ways to genetically modify things. I'm not necessarily myself against genetically modified organisms when there's a natural process, right? When there's a process of not changing things in the lab, and I don't know, that might be fine. I really don't know the science on it. What scares me more is the way that they modify food so that they become resistant to the things like glyphosate, the Roundup, that's kind of a big deal. What scares me about that is that they modify it, and then what happens is they start using all of these chemicals. And the plants are modified to be resistant against them, but we aren't modified to be resistant against these things that are really affecting our pathways, but if you want to speak more about genetically modified organisms, go right on ahead. I'm just more concerned with the chemicals that they use because of them.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to kind of piggyback on what you're talking about, they mess with the genetics of this plant, and then they patent it, and then they make the killer, like Roundup, like you mentioned, resistant to it. So then they got this like thing going where now they can, spray all this stuff with glyphosate poison, but now you have some like corn coming out of it, right? And then you start looking at some of the studies they've done on GMO corn, and the rats, 3 generations later, are sterile. And so here are, rats' lives, maybe, what is it, 6-8 months, something like this, or 3 years there. But then humans' life is like 80 years. So there's no long-term studies on it, how it's going to affect humans. And then naturally the state, the United Nations, these psychopaths, the cabal behind it, the Federal Reserve, and these guys who truly want to dominate Earth, unfortunately, and you look at their documents, the book Tragedy and Hope and the work of G. Edward Griffin, and these guys, they do want to do that. And so they use food as a weapon. In some of their documents, they know that if there's no food on the shelves in a grocery store, for 3 to 5 days, us nice, friendly people are going to turn mad and crazy, and there's going to be crisis. And remember what the former mayor in Chicago said, you never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Because the politicians, these guys are always pulling strings behind the curtain. And so I just bring that up because food is a weapon. And so that's why Monsanto owns Roundup and these kind of things. They work together because they want full spectrum domination, and this is what's so alarming with like censorship stuff happening right now. We got to speak up as much as we can about the foods. And if you're getting bad results from the foods, speak up. And I love what Kat's talking about, like planting and growing stuff. I was raised up in the mountains, so like we didn't have a good growing season, but now I'm in like a little part of California where I can start to learn and grow things. And then going forward, like how empowering would it be to create the society, the village, the town, where we do have 100% sustainability, and maybe we can like take some proactive steps to like block Monsanto or block these guys, because it's like, this is your land and they're trying to patent these seeds, and the pollen comes over and your seeds fertilize, and now they're going to put some type of lawsuit against you. Understanding that they're making aggressive moves. So I don't know if we're going to do a show on like legal or lawful stuff, but that's a really powerful point also.
But wait, I just want to point out that Monsanto recently lost a very important suit. This one guy, I think he was awarded something like $289 million.
There's multiple lawsuits actually across the globe, in France, the United States. I mean, this is major. And this is, I think, a really important point, is that right now, this chemical poison that is being sprayed on our food, it's legal, right? Yet marijuana is not, and raw milk in a lot of places is not. You have these things that can actually help your body to heal, and the government intervenes. And so this is really an important thing to discuss when we're talking about anarchy, because very often when there is an institution involved on a planetary level, the things that harm us stay legal while the things that heal us are not. And this is absolutely fascinating to me. And so for those of you who don't know a lot about glyphosate, which is the #1 pesticide used in the United States and pretty much all over the planet, I want to give you a little bit of information here, okay? And this is coming from usrtk.org. It says that in a 2016 study, this was the most widely used pesticide in the United States. There have been 1.8 million tons of it sprayed on our food since 1974. Okay, so like this is so many chemicals. And this stuff is found in General Mills product. It is found in cereals. It is found in granola bars. You can Google this study that came out where they did research on all of the mainstream grain products that are sold here in the United States. These chemicals are making their way onto your kitchen counter, and they are being eaten by your children, okay? And this stuff is known to cause cancer. And people are winning multi-million-dollar lawsuits all across the globe. This is something I've been following on my blog, The Homestead Guru. We've been talking about this. I mean, they are being sued by thousands, plural, of people across the planet, and they recently got bought out in the last 5 years, I believe by Bayer, but I need to fact check that. And so now they're having to deal with all of this pushback because it is actually making people sick. In fact, in 2015, the World Health Organization issued a classification of glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. I like it how they put the probably, right? But the courts are validifying this, and they are in agreement that this is taking place. And when you take food that has, one, been genetically modified, and we don't know for sure how that alone is going to affect our bodies, especially when it's done in a petri dish, as opposed to, you can create a hybrid seed between two types of tomatoes, right, in your garden. That happens all the time. That's why fruit trees, they graft the branches, and you don't plant the seeds of an apple. You graft the branch of the apple tree and put it on another tree. That's how you keep the same kind of apple, because the seeds from your actual fruit are going to produce a different plant entirely. I mean, that's how this works in nature, in the garden. But when we're doing this in a petri dish, we have no idea how it is affecting our bodies. And so something I really want to touch on is this difference between conventionally grown food and organically grown food. When we are talking about conventional food, we are talking about food that is sprayed with some sort of chemical pesticide, right? Now, of course, people will say everything's a chemical, right? You know, yeah, that's true. But there are synthetically produced chemicals and there are natural chemicals that are provided to us in nature. The beautiful thing is, when you start to learn about plants and gardening and soil health, there's a difference between soil and dirt. Soil is alive, dirt is dead. You find that Mother Nature actually has protections for plants built within her ecosystem, in the microbes, in the fungi, in companion planting. There's a reason that people plant basil and tomatoes with each other. There's a reason that people plant what's called the Three Sisters, and it's where you plant corn and beans and squash all together. It's because the beans bring nitrogen to the soil. The squash creates ground cover that drowns out all the weeds. And the corn provides a bean pole for the beans to climb up. And all of a sudden, you have this beautiful, harmonious system that does not require the use of chemical pesticides. And so when we are talking about freedom and anarchy and speaking with our dollar, where we spend our money, it's really important that we're paying attention to where our food is coming from. How was it raised? You know, we don't have to grow all of our own food, like Angel said. You don't have to grow it all, but understanding where it's coming from and doing business with people who are growing food in alignment with Mother Nature, and people are just shouting permaculture, permaculture, permaculture here in the comments. And that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. Mother Earth has the ability to pop out food all the time with very minimal human intervention. You just have to make sure that you are cultivating the conditions for it. And when we are monocropping and the government is giving grants to farmers who are monocropping the land, killing the soil, and are just leaching all the nutrients out and growing the same plant over and over and over and over and over again, they have to use synthetic fertilizers and synthetic pesticides in order to produce food in that system. And when we start moving toward organic and we start moving toward permaculture and companion planting and bio-intensive gardening, and we're really working, like, how many people in here compost? Will you please write in the comments if you compost? I want to say thank you to the people who are composting their food and not throwing it in the landfill, because our earth is designed to take waste and turn it into food for our food and for our plants that protect our food. So it's really important. This is a very little step that you can take toward health freedom, is to start composting. start a little compost in your backyard. It's a really, really interesting thing. Now, we're talking a lot about food right now, and we're talking a lot about, you know, what's going on with the government, but health is more than just what we eat. One of the greatest realizations that I have had with health is the need to move. It's the need to create movement within my body, within my muscles, within my lymphatic system. Not very many people know, and I did not know until I was bit by a brown recluse, that your lymphatic system, which is your body's detox system, it's manually pumped. So when you're moving your arms and your legs, you're pumping these lymph nodes. And when you're moving your head and your arms and your body, you're pumping these lymph nodes. And that is how your body actually extracts toxins and moves them to your detox organs so they can then be flushed from your body. So stagnation actually can affect your body in really, really negative ways. And we live in a culture where we are forced to sit in a desk at a public school as a child, and then we move to sit at a cubicle and work for the man and pay our taxes and da-da-da-da-da. And something I am finding is that movement is a really important part of freedom. And we do have someone on the call with us today. Her name is Misty, and she is part of the Groove movement, and they are who provide yoga and dance at Anarchapulco every single year. They're doing it this year. Misty, I would love it if you could talk to us about the importance of movement and health.
Well, yeah, it's all like what you just said. I feel like the greatest rebellion is actually learning to love yourself. And learning to love yourself is not only putting the right foods in your body, but also moving your body, because our bodies are built for movement. And what I've realized as I've become more and more involved with Anarchapulco and Anarchawaken is that I realize a lot of it's really heady. And we're discussing such important topics, and there's a moment where we need to get into the body, and we've got to integrate. And so the 3 days before the Anarchawaken will be a 3-day retreat, and this retreat is all about health and wellness, and it's about you getting into your body, and not just that, but it's about something that's really important to me about this movement I've created all around the world, is that we're so tech heavy now that we're missing actual physical interaction with people as well. So part of a healthy person is someone that's not only connected to themselves, but is connected to others. And that's not just through technology. That's actually face-to-face, touch, talking, interaction. And that's a lot about what we're going to be doing too. What we do in the world, it's called the World Groove Movement. What we're going to be hosting is a super, really fun dance experience for any and all people, especially if you're afraid to dance or you're like, I feel stupid. I promise you, it's like what you said. You nailed it, Catherine. It's like, moving your body will make you healthy. You can eat all the right foods, but if you're not moving your body, you're not free. You aren't. And that our bodies are our temples, and we have the responsibility to take care of them, not only with food, but through movement. And not just movement and exercise, like let me just, go to the gym. Dance actually is the ultimate form of exercise, because it not only just gets your whole body pumping and lubricated and circulating, is that it connects you to your creativity, connects you to who you actually are, your authentic self. And so that's something I'm super excited to bring to everybody. So anyone that's watching, it's you can make it to the 3 days before. Join us for movement. We're going to be doing yoga and meditation and sound baths and all of these things just to connect you deeper to yourself, and also help to cultivate a more peaceful inner world, so that as we have these conversations and the tension builds and everyone gets fired up, you can maintain a sense of inner peace. And so, like you said, nonviolent communication, when you're connected to yourself and you're aware and you've cultivated through whether it's breath work or yoga or dance, a more calm inner world, you're able to absorb and actually interact with people at a higher level. So there's a lot going on, even from green juices to everything. But it's like you said, you're not truly free until you move your body and you're free with your health, and your health is in line.
Oh, I love that. Misty, you said something when you first started speaking that hit me at my core. The ultimate rebellion is taking care of yourself and loving yourself. Whoa, that is freedom right there. If you want to stick it to the man, take care of yourself. Honor your body. Treat it as a temple. That is so beautiful. I mean, that is just... that moved me.
I appreciate it, but you're welcome. But that's the truth, and that's what I learned in my life, and that's what through movement, we teach people how actually connect with themselves, to learn how to move their bodies in ways that feel really good, so that you're making yourself feel good. So not only do you have a brilliant mind, but you have a body that feels delicious. And that's the greatest pleasure of life, is when you're healthy and you feel good, then you can accomplish anything. So
yes,
that's where we need to start.
Absolutely. Now, you brought up dance. We brought up dance. We're talking about dance. And Angel actually introduced me to a type of dance that's probably similar to the groove movement stuff. She brought me to an ecstatic dance event in Austin, Texas. And let me tell you, everybody, I have never felt more free. I mean, being able to move and dance and express yourself in just these really authentic ways in a space where no one's judging you. No one's watching what you do. Everyone's in their own zone, doing their own thing. Angel, do you want to talk about dance? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that it's been really influential for you. If you're open to talking about it, I think that could be really neat for the audience here.
For dance. So when you ask me, that's even better. No, for me, I mean, it's obvious. You're moving your body. It's physical health, and it's so much easier for me to expend energy, and lots of energy, when I'm having a good time, when I'm feeling like it's not just exercise, there's something else happening. And with ecstatic dance, there's that part of it that's also about community, about being in a space and sharing that energy. And it really does relate to health, to have this emotional wellness. There's a part of just feeling good emotionally that makes you feel good physically as well. And I have found that in ecstatic dance, in connecting with people, in realizing that it doesn't matter what I look like or how I dance, that it's all about me connecting with the music, and it being okay in a space of people who are supportive of you being an individual, and having your own flow. And I have felt so incredibly well since I started dancing. So I think it's both the exercise and the physical and the mental health that comes from that too. I'm a big believer in placebo. If you think something makes you feel better and you actually feel better because you believe that, then I don't think that can be discounted. We have people who are on all kinds of drugs and just hoping to feel better, and not really having the effects that are always promised. And sometimes just feeling good and believing in something. And I just want to forget about dance for a second. I have OAS, oral allergy syndrome. And so in certain seasons, I have allergic reaction. I have increased sensitivity to eating all foods. Like, no matter what I eat, I'm likely to feel nausea. And I remember telling someone, I drink carbonated water and it makes me feel better. And they were like, I think that's just, I don't know what that means. I don't think that's scientific. And so I was like, let me Google this and see if there are any scientific studies that show that this carbonation actually helps. And I wanted to find the avenue that it helps. How does it do that? And everything I found was just this stuff, that it wasn't a real thing, there's no studies that show it, except that I, in my personal life, am having this real reaction. I drink carbonated water and the nausea goes away. And I don't know if that's because I believe that the nausea will go away or not. And so it made me think about the validity of studies and looking to experts all the time for information about your health, and looking for there to be some sort of hard proof about what will work for you as an individual. Why should I care if studies don't? It would be silly of me to stop drinking carbonated water, which actually helped me every single time without fail, just because the studies don't show, just because it doesn't affect enough people for that to be something that I guess the scientific community would want to promote. And so I've been thinking a lot about what that means, especially in the alternative, because we promote a lot of alternative medicines, a lot of alternative health solutions. And so many people will say, oh yeah, that's, like that's just pseudoscience. But what helps, what aids you in feeling better is what matters. And you should be trying everything and not just the conventional medicines supported by, the mainstream of thinkers. So I know that wasn't the question you asked, but it made me think. I kind of took us off track. It made me think a lot about my own experience and how it does depart from what everyone is saying I should be doing.
Well, I think that's a really excellent point, Angel, because ultimately what we're talking about here is personal freedom, personal sovereignty, and taking responsibility for ourselves. I know that I have experiences with plant medicines that may or may not be documented scientifically, and I don't care if they're documented scientifically. I know what works for me. I know what works for my children, and I am comfortable being a caregiver for myself and others utilizing these modalities. It may be essential oils. It may be meditation. I've used meditation for pain relief. And yes, there are scientific studies that can validate all of these things, like essential oils, like people are putting in the comments to put ginger in your water to help ease or soothe stomach indigestion, that sort of thing. So there's science that can basically prove anything. And when we're talking about science, it's really important to look and see who is funding it. And I know that a lot of times in the scientific communities and in the free thinking communities, people say, don't use anecdotal evidence. We need to use facts and science. And you know what? To me, anecdotal evidence is the most important evidence because it is real people having real experiences outside of a laboratory. There is no manipulation of data. There's no big government grant funding it with, usually an intention to achieve a desired result. It's a real human being having a real experience. And to me, that is the most important thing ever. And really, when we look at it, modern science says that it's okay to have red 40 in your food, and it's okay to have GMO, and it's okay to spray chemicals on everything. So why would we trust that?
Yeah. I want to add on to that. I mean, you're right about the medicine side. Like, these guys are the experts and they're giving us a bunch of crap. So it's like, maybe everything we've been told about food and medicine is wrong, right? Like, maybe the future is tuning in with ourselves, connecting with ourselves. I love what you said, Misty, about like loving ourselves. That really is powerful for sure. And then you said dancing connects you to your creativity. And I've experienced that. I've also been in some ecstatic dances. My friend, she started some kind of open floor dance, and it's weird. It looks wacky compared to what our traditional, hip hop stuff is. But ultimately, it's expression. Right. So right now, you brought up the point about being in our heads, and like, yeah, we're in our heads, we figure out the logic, but to get into our body is a whole different game. And then when you're moving to the music, sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. Right. And as long as you get like that, junior high school mindset out of us, or like dancing like this and we're trying to be cool, whatever, that's not what it's about. Right. You get the music going and you start to feel and get in the flow, and you're just like, man, I'm just feeling myself. You feeling yourself, and then you start to feel your body. And then I've had the experience, I did that for like I think we did it for like 90 minutes or something. And then at the end, and we're totally sober, right? We're like drinking water, drinking tea. And then at the end, like, you're like, man, I feel so free. I feel so expressive. And it actually helped me feel like a young child again, like the age from like age 3 to 7 or something, when they're not conscious of self, but they're like, the music comes on and they do crazy stuff. They're not trying to make a show, but because they're feeling it and they're in the groove and they're in the flow. And I think that's so powerful, because as we get in the flow, we become more courageous, more creative, whether we're writers or artists or producers or whatever's happening. Once we feel more connected with ourselves, and then, we can make these cool things happen. And then, like you said, we connect with other people and have authentic relationships. And then we start to build the tribe. So I really am so happy to like learn more about what you're doing, Misty, because this has been a missing part, I think, for Anarchapulco for the few years of like getting into our body. We got the left brain, but we got to get the right brain back in the mix. And this, corresponds with like music and dance and all these other things. So I'm ready to dance like right now.
Hey, would you mind giving everybody an overview of the opening retreat and what you're offering during the conference? And for those of you paying attention, If you have a comment or question that you want to make, please raise your hand in the Zoom app so that I can see you, and I will call on you after Misty.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's going to be incredible. Every day there's going to be opening yoga. We're going to have a couple different dance experiences every day. We've got juices provided by Green Verde or Verde Vegan. Verde Vegan. We have a couple really great speakers coming in talking about Tantra and connection, intimacy. We'll be having sound baths and it's just everything we can to get you deeper connected to yourself. And what I also want people to know about the dance experience, because you guys started talking about ecstatic dance, and Angel and I had a conversation about this. What people need to groove is not ecstatic dance, because ecstatic dance, what I've learned for the general population, is a big step, because it's extremely intimidating. Like you said, like to be sober and walk into a room and see a bunch of people kind of going off and doing their own thing, it looks a little strange and it can be very intimidating. So this is what I want people to know, that anyone out there that loves ecstatic dance and or is afraid of dance, what groove is kind of like the gateway drug. It's the thing that actually, because most people go, well, I don't know what to do with my body. So what groove does, and what's so powerful, is that we have an anchor in every song. So in each song, I actually give you something to do. I give you a movement that anchors everyone together in a unified way. So everyone is actually in a unified sense, but things that everyone can do, and there's no right foot, left foot. You can't get this stuff wrong. But I give you some movement suggestions to help you kind of begin that vocabulary with your, and then you do it with other people. So it's this huge, it's something that you just really have to experience, because it's truly connected. Where ecstatic dance is fabulous, but almost everyone is kind of doing their own thing and off in their own world. And what we wanted to do with groove is actually create a unified experience. So we're actually doing it together, because no matter how much we talk, it's all the stuff, even in the head stuff. It's like there has to be a point of unity. We have to unify. And what groove creates is what the world actually is. We're all united as one, but we're all different. And so in that unity, everyone gets to express it their own authentic, unique way, but we are still completely unified, and everyone gets to feel and sense that more tribal, it's like tribal dance coming. I've brought tribal dance in a really fun, funky, modern way, and made it really fun and simple to come together and unify with the group and feel your body get into, like he was saying, into the zone and into the group. And when that happens, the mind shuts off. So we'll have 3 days of that, and then during the actual conference, we will have morning yoga classes, and we will also have evening dance experiences. So we'll be offering that all the way through the whole conference. So join us, give it a try. Anyone that just wants to experience something different, like you said, we can't just be in our heads. We've got to get in our bodies, and sometimes let the mind shut off and get in just the feel of things and the expression of things. So we're super excited. We got lots of great stuff planned for you guys. It's gonna be delicious.
Misty, I'm really excited about it too. I know for me that movement has completely changed my life. I got into yoga when I was pregnant with my daughter 9 years ago. And for me, learning how to move myself through a sequence and through a series is awesome. And you were talking about having that unifying force. And I feel like for me, being able to take a yoga class with other people, it provides that. And while I was in Mexico for 6 months last year, I actually studied Ashtanga yoga. And that was really, my cat just got into something. Sorry if you heard that. That was really neat for me, because Ashtanga yoga, it allows you to learn a sequence and to do it in order so that you can get to the point where you don't have to follow the teacher. And everybody in the class, they're going through it at their own pace, and they're going through this sequence. And for me, that was a new type of liberation. It really allowed me to get into a higher vibrational state and into a meditative state. Now, there was a question in the chat room, and I figured you're the perfect person to respond to this, Misty. What is a sound bath?
Ah, that's great. A sound bath is where you come in and you're completely relaxed. Everyone lies down and someone comes in, they've got crystal bowls, different things that make sound, very high frequency sounds. Some of the bowls are tuned to the 528 hertz, which is the heart, which is also frequency. So just entering into a space of these high frequency sounds can be quite healing to the body, and also incredibly relaxing. But a lot of people that are really sensitive can actually feel the higher benefits of it. But being in a room of high frequency sound is very powerful. We are just frequency. That's all we are. So bathing in a high frequency can do so much for your body. You shared something really powerful that answered that question, but you mentioned something about yoga kind of setting you free. A little bit, just background why dance is so important. I just want people to know that when I discovered this method that I'm teaching and that I'm going to share with you guys, I was bulimic for 16 years. I was totally unconscious in the system, reading fashion magazines, buying into all the bullshit, and just dumb as a stump. And it wasn't until I actually set myself free through movement that literally when I started grooving my body, letting myself be authentic and creative without a care what anyone thinks about it, and really setting myself free, bulimia literally just left me. I didn't need therapy. I didn't need anything. I just needed to learn to be authentic and learn to love myself. And so this is what we want to share with people. So sound bath, with this, you combine all of these activities that we're doing, and it's 3 days just to prepare you mentally, physically, and spiritually for the conference ahead.
Fantastic. Okay, so when we're talking about frequency, you guys, I think there's something that we need to talk about, and this is EMF radiation. This is electromagnetic frequency radiation. We are all frequency, we are all vibration, and we are surrounded by vibrational inputs all over the planet. So you have radio waves flying through the air. You have X-rays flying through the air. There are all sorts of frequencies that exist around us all the time. And now that we have electronics everywhere in our homes, there is this electromagnetic frequency that is coming in to our homes and impacting us. And I think it's really important that we have this conversation about frequency and the society in which we live. I know for me, when I go into Austin, which I go in once a month, I can feel the frequency vibration. I can feel the phone towers and the radio vibrations and all of this stuff. And I don't have enough info on it, but people are talking about it in the chat. 5G, it's coming to cities near you. The cell phone towers are ready for it. And there's a lot of people talking about how dangerous these types of frequencies are for our bodies. So there are things that you can do to protect yourself from EMF radiation. Now, Dr. Buckley is unable to make it tonight, but he's running our practitioner space. He's been on the calls with us in the past. And he wrote this article called Synergistic Destruction. And it talks about how the combination of GMO foods with vaccines and EMF radiation are actually wreaking havoc on our cellular system and on our DNA. And so there are things that we can do to help protect ourselves. And one of those is to turn off your electronics at night. You can turn off your cell phone. You can shut it down. You can turn off lights. You can unplug appliances. And the EMF exposure, or airplane mode, Ken is saying in the chat right now, the exposure of EMF radiation in your home is going to greatly reduce. And I think it's really important that we talk about this, because we are inundated with these low vibe, these toxic vibrational frequencies all day, every day. And we do need to be doing things to, one, deflect that, shield that, avoid that. That's why I live here in the Bitcoin bus in the National Forest north of Houston. I love it here. I can feel a difference, and I hardly have any cell phone connection whatsoever. But and someone else's Ken is saying, put your Wi-Fi router on a timer. I mean, Wi-Fi radiation, this is another type of radiation. All of these frequencies, they are inundating us nonstop. And you can get on Google and you can find studies that show how dangerous these things are. There are elementary schools that have taken Wi-Fi out because kids were getting sick. You can do EMF radiation tests for yourself with a Petri dish. And you can put, one near and one away with the same material, the same amount of time, all other environmental factors the same, and you're going to see the difference here. There's all sorts of articles about that. So I don't know if anyone has anything that they would like to contribute about EMF radiation itself, if this is anyone's area of expertise, but it's definitely something worth looking into. Ken's talking about the rice pest. That's one of them, where you put it next to a Wi-Fi router and you see how it just destroys the rice. It's disgusting. It's awful. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say about that in particular? Okay, moving on. Just something to get on Google and research, right? These frequencies matter. So talking about yoga, talking about meditation, talking about healing sound bowls, something that I think is really interesting when you are talking about these yogic Eastern philosophies is talking about how we eat and what we eat and what we are putting into our body. And there are all these different schools of thought that range from veganism to carnivore, paleo. There's all of these different ways of eating. I am a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since 2003. I am not dogmatic about it. I'm a philosophical vegetarian in terms of, I guess I'm a political vegetarian because I don't believe in factory farming. And when I was in college, I gave a speech on something I disagreed with, which was I don't believe in vegetarianism. And I convinced myself to quit eating factory farmed meat. And I didn't have access to organically grown, grass-fed beef. And so I became a vegetarian. I'm at a point where I don't believe I produce the enzymes to actually digest meat other than fish. I have been able to eat some fish. But what I have found is that my body did get out of balance from a 16-year-long vegetarian diet. I ended up grossly anemic. My hair started falling out and breaking. I couldn't grow fingernails, and it actually took starting an iron supplement. So I'm curious what you all think about diets and how that plays into anarchy. Do you believe in veganism? Are you an advocate of paleo? Does anybody here think that there's a one-size-fits-all solution to diet? I don't. I think all of our bodies are completely unique. And we all need different things at different time periods. Angel has something to say on this. Chime in.
So I will say this, not specifically from the health perspective, but I have a lot of vegan friends, and I know some of them who feel very much that the non-aggression principle applies. And so I'm sorry to take it like way off track, but we are talking anarchy here, and this is how.
Yeah, no, it's relevant.
And some of them believe that the non-aggression principle should apply to all things. And that's an argument that maybe all sentient beings, so far as we can tell that something is sentient, that you have to abide by that. And I think that's a dicey area to start thinking about the non-aggression principle, because the thing about the non-aggression principle is that if you aggress against someone, then it means that you violated their rights and they can act in defense. But if you extend that concept to animals, it also means that people can act in defense of animals. And then I think you start getting to some real conflict about how humans are going to interact with each other if someone believes that they have a right to stop you from eating meat. But it is a huge debate. And I for my own part, I definitely understand the idea of making sure that if something is conscious, we respect that consciousness, and we don't put them in we don't make it such that their lives are full of just terror and discomfort. But I think when we talk about anarchy and government and when it is okay to use force, I think we have to recognize that what we're creating through an anarchist society, hopefully, is a rights-based society, one where we talk about how we interact with each other for peaceful outcomes. And if you start extending it to animals, I think you get into a place where it's dicey. And it's like you said, like I as a vegan, I'm not a vegan, but like if I'm a vegan, I as a vegan might decide for myself that if there are any health, if there is anything that I have to give up with respect to health, that I'm willing to do that in order to preserve another consciousness. But another person really might not feel that way and might validly say, my health is meaningful to me. My kids' health is meaningful to me. And so if I need to give them protein, if it needs to be in the form of fish or meat, then then that doesn't have anything to do with the choices that you make as an individual. So it's an interesting debate, because I do really value the people who value all conscious life. It's just really, where does it end, and what can you do in order to protect that life is the question for me.
Go ahead, David.
I agree. It's like, it's hard to extend human rights to animals, right? And I agree, they have emotions. Have you seen that video of that dog when there's a fish there? There's like a puddle of water, the dog trying to push water to the fish with his nose. I'm just like, how smart are these animals? Like whales and stuff, they have like such good brains, and elephants. So there's definitely a major intelligence there. And in terms of like extending the human rights to them, it's like, I just want to focus on humans. I mean, we're putting kids in schools for 12 years where the state has the ability to execute people, to putting people in prison for a plant. Let's focus on humans at that level, in my opinion. And then the other side of it is from a practical side, because I've seen like the videos of mass slaughterhouses. I'm like, dude, this is terrible. Why am I a meat eater, right? I feel the guilt and all that. But then from the other aspect, like maybe Catherine's mission, she was a vegan or a vegetarian for a while, and so it wasn't benefiting her that well. And there's other people who go do that, and I go back to carnivore. Now they're like strong, or they're like carnivore and they go vegan, and now they're strong bodybuilders or something, right? There's a documentary out there I just saw, it's like called Game Changers. I'm like, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger's on there and all these great athletes. So it's like, at the end of the day, we are unique amongst 7 or 8 billion beings. Our genetics, our fingerprints, everything about us is unique. And this goes back to a philosophical level of like, we got to know ourselves. Self-knowledge is the key, and trial and error, experiment these things. And so I'm glad we haven't got so many dogmatic folks on the line today, because it's like, I agree, dude, like, be pro animals, but let get some room for other people. If pork and beans and potatoes, that benefits them, can you let them eat it? We just kind of like create some solutions for respectful slaughterhouses, or kind of like what maybe the Native Americans did, or maybe tribes of ancient. They would like pray, they would slaughter the animal and then use its fur, use its bones, and like, thank you for your life, and like speak life, and I'm like, kind of that respect of this sentient being. Because I love humans, and I also love dogs and cats and all these things. I love them all, but like seeing a human being suffer when they can express it and feel the emotions and all those things is really a hurtful thing. But the other aspect was like, well, some vegans works for some people, carnivore works for other people. If we can transcend this idea, like you mentioned, Catherine, is one size doesn't fit all. And I think that's like a meme that can continue for the next, decade or so, for education, for the food system, for medical system, for everything, like war, politics. Can you imagine 300 million people and there's 2 parties in the U.S.? What a scam that is, right? It's like what Jeff Berwick, the founder of Anarchapulco, says, is like he dreams of a world where there's 7 billion governments, and we all are just sovereign entities to ourselves. We want to interact voluntarily. Let's do a contract, this kind of thing. But I think, finding our own healthy lifestyle is super important, and how to learn about our own tendencies, our own preferences, and try to respect other people, including animals. But, human beings are what I like to protect and, promote that.
Yeah. Sherry made a good point that all those grass-eating animals also eat bugs, so there's no true veganism in nature. But I mean, and also, the thing is, feeding, a billion people, there's no getting around that there's going to be loss of life. And actually, I know some people who think plants are sentient. So then, I don't know, if we, like, where does it end? What if they prove one day that plants are sentient? And then, like, what do we do then, right? So, but there, even in farming, there's just no getting away. There's going to be a tractor. There's going to be the digging up. There's going to be, the harvesting of plants, and there's going to be loss of life. So I think it's really just where vegans start to, I hate to talk about vegans like they're not in the room or something, but it's where on the spectrum you feel comfortable with the loss of life, right? And it's like some vegans will say no loss of life, but they're not being practical and they're not even being honest with what it takes to create, like the food that they eat. It is going to create loss of life. And so that's where I think there needs to be understanding. If someone is somewhere else on the spectrum, then we like vilifying them, making them feel evil, that I think is probably that's what really gets me about the whole like vegan meat eater debate, is when people start to create villains out of pretty decent people who are just doing the things that we've been doing since humanity.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's really important that when we're having these conversations, one, like if you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. We're happy for you. If you want to be a carnivore, be a carnivore. But ultimately, I have the right to eat. And my dog has the right to eat. My cat has the right to eat. The birds outside have the right to eat. We have the right to eat. My body produces digestive enzymes. It has teeth that are capable of digesting a wide spectrum of foods. Plants, fungi, fats, proteins, animal product, animal flesh, okay? Our bodies are designed to be able to digest a wide range of foods. And this is because we are designed to exist all over the planet, right? There are people who live on the poles and they need to eat fish in order to live. There's no vegetation growing there, maybe seaweed. And there are people who live in the tropics where food is falling off the trees, fruit in abundance. Not to mention, when you are in the heat, fruit does a great job of cooling you and detoxing you while you're sweating. And meats and fats have a really important role in making sure that the human animal or other animals can survive the winter. Now, yes, there are some species that survive the winter just eating plants all year, but we are not designed to go into hibernation and necessarily sleep for 3 months after gorging all summer, right? We are designed to, I think there is a feast or famine. That's why intermittent fasting is so interesting, because our bodies are designed to function like this. And people have different blood types. I'm blood type A. That tends to do well with vegetarianism. So there's no one size fit all, like David was saying. And we do have a right to eat. Our bodies are designed to digest multiple types, but nobody has the right to cause the perpetual suffering of another. So if you are raising an animal in incarceration and you are abusing it and harming it and pumping it full of hormones and treating it like a captive slave, that's not a good thing. And I don't think that anyone who really understood what factory farming is would want to eat that food when they came and looked at it, right? And there's a huge difference between hunting a deer or raising a chicken and slaughtering it yourself with your children and your family and making it and utilizing all aspects of the animal. There's a sacredness to that. And I think that's really beautiful. Misty, were you wanting to chime in on this?
Well, just such an interesting conversation, and it's something that we all ultimately have to face and accept, is that life has to eat itself to survive. And life comes in all forms, and life eats itself. It's a violent process. Every species eats another species to survive. And it's not even just that, it's that we don't really know. They've actually proven scientifically that trees actually have nervous systems, and trees communicate. And plants, actually, they've measured like the frequency of the plant when its sister plant was being chopped up in the next room, it reacted. So we actually don't know. So how do you draw the line? The truth of the matter is life has to eat itself to survive. And whatever that looks like, but like you said, as long as we as a people, it's the slaughterhouses, it makes me nauseous to even think about what we do to animals, and that we can, and it is possible, because I always tell everyone, like, if you had to kill the animal you ate, how much meat would you actually eat? If you had to look that animal in the eye and kill it yourself, how much meat would you actually eat? and it would change things very drastically. And it's really the meat industry that's destroying our ecosystem. I mean, it's from everything. But I don't think it's that we're not supposed to eat meat. It's just the way that we're supposed to eat it. Like you said, animals are, I believe, are sacred beings and are messengers and also here to protect us and help us survive. And we're there for them too. I think, well, actually, the planet doesn't need us. It survives great without us, actually, probably better without us. But, because we just destroy, where the plants live in harmony. We're the only species that does not live in harmony with its environment. And it's such a big conversation, but I think with all of us, just accepting that life has to eat itself to survive. And I think it's our responsibility as anarchists to do our best to not create pain and conflict or terror upon another species, but that we can do things in a respectful way.
Yes, beautiful. I love that. Misty, I really appreciate your contributions. I feel like you say some of the most profound things. And I want to mention to everyone that there is a mycelium network that exists underground. And this is a network of fungi. And this is how plants communicate with one another. So, for example, a tree with a large root system that is aware that there are nutrients in a certain area of soil will send notification through the underground mycelium networks, letting other plants know where to find the nutrients. They will even communicate with their young, with baby acorns that are sprouting. So, and interestingly, there is a Bitcoin wallet called Mycelium. So, the internet was created by the soil and the fungi inside the soil. There's an actual internet between the plants where they communicate with one another. There's also research, getting back on the topic of frequency and vibration, there are devices where and someone just recommended The Secret Life of Trees, Angel, that was you, a book you can read. There are devices that you can connect to a plant and it will play this song that the plant is vibrating with, okay? So you can take, and I've seen this on YouTube. Now, this wasn't a scientific study. This was a YouTuber testing this out. They took a GMO tomato plant and an organic tomato plant. Get this. This is fascinating. They hooked it up to the GMO plant. It didn't sing. They hooked it up to the organic plant. The GMO plant heard it and it listened. And the organic plant sang its song. And when they moved the microbes attachments back to the GMO plant, it began to sing a song as well. So everywhere you go, there is frequency being emitted from yourself that can be measured, right? There's an electromagnetic frequency. It is real. And that's why some people, when they walk into the room, you can feel them. And you can feel if they're vibing high and you can feel if they're vibing low because they have a giant field. Some people call it an aura, right? And this is where like the metaphysical becomes scientific and biochemistry meets spirituality. And what I love about Anarchapulco is that we get to talk about all of those things and we get to explore all of those things because they are all a really important part of creating freedom in our lifetime for our species, getting in tune with all of these frequencies and understanding what is high vibe, what is low vibe, what is good for me, what is good for the world. This stuff is really, really, really important. And Simone just commented in the chat that we are all chords in an orchestra that is playing across the globe. We each sing a song, and together we can create a beautiful harmony. It's true. Michael Nimitz is talking about how water has a memory, a vibrational frequency. You can find this stuff on YouTube. I have seen this. So guys, if you are interested in chiming in here, I would love for you to raise your hand or put your comments here in the comment section. I'm going to take a look at our discussion prompts here and see how we're moving through. We've hit the GMOs and the organics. We've hit the vegetarianism and veganism. We've hit the yoga, the healthy lifestyles. I think the processed foods was sort of touched on. We talked about, eating out of boxes, and ultimately that's dead food, right? That's why it can survive so long. Angel, what is it you wanted to say?
Yeah, just about the GMOs and the organic. So a lot of us, I think, are trying to remove those things out of our diet as much as possible. And they are really hard to remove. And especially when you have kids, because it's so easy to just like open that box of Cheerios and give it to your kid. But actually, I recently found out that Cheerios and things like that have like the highest levels of glyphosate. So you think everyone thinks they're giving their kids a healthy snack with Cheerios, but it's like, it's terrible. And so there's a movie or a documentary that recently came out that I just wanted to suggest to everyone. It's called Secret Ingredients. I think you can stream it. And it's about a family going from a standard American diet to non-GMO organic foods. And across the board, when people do this, they experience really great health benefits, aside from glyphosate going down, but a lot of problems with digestion, a lot of like mental fog clears up when you change your diets. And I mean, it could be a number of things, because if you go from standard American, it probably means you're eating lots of sugars. And if you go to an organic, either a raw food diet or non-GMO diet, organics, you're probably eating a lot more whole foods, right? And so that changes things. But anyway, I think it's just interesting to think about how we can make decisions right now in order to really improve our health. And that might be one of the ways, committing to spending a little bit of extra money, which is part of the problem, but spending a little bit of extra money so that you're not spending tons of money on the after effects of having a really poor diet, right? And so
yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know for me, food is actually the biggest part of my monthly budget. Like, I spend more on food than anything else, because for me, that's the building blocks of my body. That is what creates me. And that's what creates my children. So to me, it's really important that is my number one priority. I think I cut you off, Angel. Did you want to finish?
No, there's another documentary. I'm trying to get my kids in front of the TV, watch documentaries, because I'm an unschooler, and I don't like to force my kids to eat the way I want them to eat, and they're older now, so they have their own money. So it's like, okay, how do I get you to understand that? Please, pay attention. And it's important, right? So another, I think, good film for people to watch and maybe share with your kids as well, not to scare them, but to give them information, is the I think it's called the Magic. Oh shucks, I think it's called the Magic Pill. And I'll post, I think it's called The Magic Pill, but I'll go ahead and post it. And that one is actually on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you can just watch that and think more about, and be more aware, so you can start to really be motivated to make the healthy decisions for yourself. So I just want to
Awesome. David, I saw you wanted to chime in there too.
I think I just had an epiphany, because you were talking about the natural tomato plant was vibrating, and then when it vibrated with the GMO plant, right? So there's some type of frequency. And then as it relates to dancing, right, when you see somebody in their flow, they're being free with themselves. That gives you permission to be free with yourself. And then you heard about the 100th monkey effect. When people are starting to be free and expressive and true to themselves, their ownership, self-ownership, this starts to vibrate with other people. And that's one of the great things about Anarchapulco. You're there. Like, I get good vibes from like everybody in Anarchapulco, man, even if we have different beliefs or whatever, but it's like, you're being liberated. It gives me permission to be liberated, be authentic with myself. So like, that just really hit me as something like super high vibrational. It's like, we can win if everybody gets free, if everybody gets connected to themselves, and that gives permission for the children and for the older people and for these other people. And we're healthy. It's like high vibration. That was an epiphany that I felt like the more free we are and expressive we are, then that helps the world, that helps the other people who see you, and perpetuate that, so that we can all be free and we can conquer and make the state obsolete.
Boom. Boom. Mic drop. Now we're talking. This is what I'm talking about. Michael Nimitz, I saw that you raised your hand there. If you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on something there. Can everybody hear it?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Glad to see everybody. Everybody's doing great. Love this conversation. I just wanted to point out in regard to, some of the other things that I think one of the other possibilities that we should definitely touch on is like what Wim Hof has done in regard to, essentially setting a mindset and really kind of understanding that like our nature is one in which we really do have some superior power. Like Wim Hof has demonstrated that like he could be injected with a bacteria that has infected everybody, but then train his mind to essentially upgrade his immune system and make his body just essentially reject that poison. And he was able to demonstrate that by training other people to do it as well. He's also the guy that has walked to the to Mount Everest in shorts, and no oxygen, at like 25,000 feet. And so, our body is capable of tremendous things. And even if we are taking in poison, even if we are, there's things around us that are, not good for us, our body is capable of adjusting in ways that, really, we really don't really fathom quite yet. But it's the fact that, more than likely, some of this information has not been told to us. So, the fact that they're trying to keep us in a lower consciousness state of mind in which we're, fear and guilt and shame and all these kind of things, versus really being in joy and feeling the love and being enlightened, is something that, I think is really important in regard to probably the most important thing is for us to create that mindset that now we are confident, we are capable, and it's pretty much it's really up to us. It's really up to us to decide if we want to live or fall victim to the bad stuff, the bad ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yes. Absolutely, Michael. Thank you for those thoughts. For those of you who have not heard of him, I suggest you read the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, where he talks about how you can actually use the power of your mind to rewire your brain, to reprogram your DNA, to manifest health, wealth, and abundance. It is really, really powerful stuff. This is something that I've been utilizing in my health, wealth, abundance journey. I know that David and I have talked about Joe Dispenza. We are fans. We are big fans. And this is right in alignment with what Michael Nimitz was saying. Misty, I think you were wanting to chime in a minute ago, and I kind of skipped right over you. Is there something you wanted to say?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, I'm riveted by the conversation and yeah, just the power of the mind. I've done a lot of work with Joe Dispenza and what our capabilities are when we actually take control of ourselves and take responsibility and develop. We literally have superhuman powers. We just haven't tapped into them yet, and it's like you said, like we can't avoid the toxins. We're in an environment that is infected, basically, and we're getting it from the EMFs, from the 5G, from the food we eat and everything. And ultimately, it's like that Wim Hof thing is that if you've cultivated and you even bless your food, they've even shown that even food that is dead, you can change the frequency of your food. So taking even unhealthy food and blessing it with your intention in your mind, you can literally change the frequency of your food before you put it in your body just by blessing it and thanking it, even if it is a cheeseburger and that's all you could get that day. It's not going to, it's cultivating the inner world that can digest it. We have the capability to do it. It's just, we have to cultivate a higher frequency. We've got to elevate ourselves.
I am loving that. Angel, chime in here.
I'm all about becoming a superhuman. I'm all about it. Tell me the way and I am right there with you. However, in the meantime, while we're all trying to figure out how to become superhumans and to really use our minds to improve our health, there are like practical solutions, right? Like we're talking about changing your diet. I just want to mention, because like Misty said, the chemicals are everywhere. They're everywhere. Like glyphosate is everywhere. I was drinking this bottled water and I was feeling so, I'm paying for it. I'm feeling so good about it. And then I realized that I'm just chlorinating my body and killing my microbiome. And like, it made me, it's really, really difficult. we're always going to be breathing things in and eating the wrong things, and it's in our water, and we don't have total control. So I think it's all about like, what are the things that we can put in our bodies that will actually help to mitigate some of the problems of what we're seeing. And so I posted in the chat, there is a product I really like called Biomedic. And it actually removes glyphosate from your body and also helps to rebuild your gut biome. I'll post another link to that, but those kinds of products. I was listening to a talk today by this guy, Jeffrey Smith, and he was talking about glyphosate in dogs and how they have, I think 50 times more glyphosate in their bodies, and 1 in 1.6 dogs gets cancer. And it's like, is there a relationship here? They have highly increased amounts of glyphosate because we're not giving them organic foods, and they're coming across it in the plants. And so are we. We're just coming across it wherever we are. So finding ways to mitigate that. And I mean, there are so many products out there. I'm just giving you guys one that I think is really good. And it's one that I use, and I'll post that. But yeah, thinking about what kinds of things do we put in our bodies to actually help us to resolve these issues? And the microbiome is like, I don't know if anybody has been learning about it. It's like your second brain. It controls your food cravings, your energy. It's like these little beings inside you that take over your mind, right? So I've been thinking a lot about that and how to change my microbiome in such a way that I stay healthy, I stay thin, and I can eat what I want.
Yeah, I think, Angel, bringing up the pet food, let's not leave out our animals. When we're talking about processed food and organics and filtered water, if you filter your water, filter your dog's water. If you don't eat food out of a box or a bag, give your dog some raw meat. Feed them some healthy things that are good for their body. And of course, I'm the daughter of a veterinarian. I want to make sure everybody knows, don't ever give your dog cooked chicken with bone in it because they can choke and die. So be aware. But, if you are looking into vaccinations for your children, look into vaccinations for your pets. I do give rabies vaccines to my animals because in the state of Texas, if they bite someone, they could be put down if they don't have it. And that is not worth it for me, right? So there are all of these things that apply to us. They apply to our pets too. Make sure that they are eating a full spectrum diet that is in alignment with their health and their well-being, because we lose our pets too young in this world and in this society. I lost a Rottweiler to cancer. It was one of the most heartbreaking things. And it wasn't until after he died that it dawned on me that I had been drinking filtered water for the past 10 years, and I was giving my dog fluoride, and he died of bone cancer. And, hydrofluorosilicic acid, it impacts your teeth and your bones. So I'm not saying that I gave my dog cancer, but boy, I really started questioning if I had been helping him on his health journey or not. I really started to rethink how I was going to feed and interact with my pets. So, I feel like we could do multiple shows on health. We could do a whole show on water. We could do a whole show on food. We could do a whole show on movement. We could do a whole show on frequency and vibrations. I think this has been a really awesome conversation. And I'm wondering, Misty, Angel, David, if you guys would like to give any final statements here as we start to wrap up this conversation. Misty?
I just say this was excellent, and I just really hope I get a chance to meet people and that I can get you moving. So I hope to see everyone at Anarchapulco.
Awesome.
Thank you for being on with us, Misty. I really appreciate your contributions today. And y'all, if you are interested in grooving and moving, please check out the pre-event retreat. Go to anarchapulco.com, click on the tickets. This is a really great way for you to shake out the grind and the modern society and to really loosen up so that you are ready and prepared to receive. Because Anarchapulco, the main event, you're going to be inundated with people, connections, relationships, ideas, and it's really important that we're working this stuff out. So check that out. Angel.
Hey, yeah, I was just reading the comments, Ken's comments about fluoride not making your teeth or bones stronger. I love this debate. Misty, I cannot wait to be at Anarchapulco and dance and groove with you. I'm so excited about it. It's probably one of the things I'm most excited about. I'll say that. But yeah, again, what we're talking about is with these conversations is all of the ways that you can free yourselves, all of the ways that we become stronger as individuals and communities. And so here we are, right? Think about your food. Think about what you're putting in your body. Think about the food choices you make for yourselves. Think about what you're going to do with your body to feel better. Think about moving, especially if you're here. We have to be strong. If you are here, we want you to be healthy. We need to be the ones who are like blazing the trails and moving society forward. And so you're not serving yourself or your community if you're not doing the right things for yourself. So anyway, thank you so much for being here and keep being here with us.
Right. Every week we're here. I don't know I think we have maybe 4 or 5 weeks left. Maybe the show will continue.
I hope so.
Yeah, man. Like, this is really fun. This is like a virtual Anarchapulco, like a quarter, tiny part of it. But what I love about you guys in the audience is you guys are the visionaries of humanity. I'm not trying to blow air up your skirt or your dress or whatever it is. So really, it's not the left-right paradigm. You have the answer. I have the answer. Voluntarism, anarchy, whatever you call it. And this is what humanity is looking for, you know? So whether it's in this conversation, it's about health, being more connected, dance, feel yourself, learn about yourself, try different things that might work for you and learn and read and do what's best for yourself, you know, and then make some good relationships and live a long life so you can spread the freedom, spread the peace, spread the love, and hopefully, you know, perpetuate if you want, or maybe adopt some kids or something. But this is intergenerational freedom creation, in my opinion, and having kind of a long-term perspective and then sharing the nuggets of truth, you know, where we can learn these great things and pass it on. Maybe you start your own show, maybe you start your own podcast or something, because we got to get the message out. People are looking for what we have here, and I'm so excited. We're like 3 months away. Hopefully I can, you know, groove with Misty also and all y'all and do some like really fun stuff together, and I'll be connected to myself, and then we can just inspire each other and create some solutions for 2020 and beyond. And remember, Anarchapulco is here to help you become freer, healthier, and more powerful in all aspects of your life. I look forward to seeing you all in Mexico and next week.
Oh, it's going to be so good. I am so excited to get to Mexico and to experience Anarchapulco with all of you. My friend Alma always says we need to breed out statism. So I think David is right. Have those babies, procreate, keep yourself healthy so that we can breed out statism. I saw a couple quotes coming through the chat. Food is medicine. And then I want to add in, think global and act local. If you are thinking about the rest of the world, but you are spending your money locally, you're buying food grown locally, and you are really lifting up your community locally, we can maintain our health without needing to depend on arbitrary authority to do it for us. So this week we were talking about our health. Next week, we are going to be talking about anarchy and personal autonomy. This is going to be a sticky, interesting conversation. We're going to talk about things like abortion, right to life versus pro-choice, Planned Parenthood, cloning and fetal tissues, and rape and incest, and parental rights, these types of issues. Whew, this stuff is heavy, so please come prepared with your NVC hat on, because we are going to speak with love no matter what side of the spectrum that we are coming from. We love one another, and we want to communicate in a loving way about these controversial subjects and how they relate to anarchy. So here's some final thoughts with some things that are going on with Anarchapulco. First and foremost, hotel rooms are available today. We will sell out of hotel rooms because they're going to have some under construction. So there are fewer hotel rooms. They're not going to be making construction noises during the event, but some of them will be shut down. So there are fewer hotel rooms available this year than last. It's renovation. So get your hotel rooms now. That's available at anarchapulco.com. Click on the hotel category. The main stage, the Dollar Vigilante, and our health and wellness speakers have been announced on the website. Check that out. Anarch Awaken is our health and wellness stage. There's all sorts of awesome information on the website, including what to expect, frequently asked questions, and our blog that Angel and I have been working so hard on, along with a team of really fantastic writers. If you have something that you would like to contribute, we would love to hear your thoughts. So please consider submitting a guest post. And of course, spreading the word of personal freedom is a very powerful and helpful thing to do for all of us. We want to help you make money doing that. That means you can sign up for our affiliate program, and you can actually get a kickback for referring people to attend Anarchapulco. I know for me, I'm telling everyone I know about Anarchapulco because I have life-changing experiences every time I go. It just happens. I can't help but talk about it. So if you have been and your mind has been blown, your heart kicked wide open, and your tribe and your family found, and you're spreading the word naturally anyway, I highly suggest you sign up for the affiliate program so that you can maybe earn enough money to cover your hotel or pay for your ticket. I really want to say thank you to everyone who is joining us from all over the interwebs, YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Twitch, and Zoom. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love you so much. We are grateful for your participation, and we look forward to spending time with you this February in Acapulco, Mexico for Anarchapulco 2020. Peace and love.
Anarchapulco is so hype, I'm trying to tell ya. This the event of the year and best vacation ever. Ron Potter, Jeffrey Tucker, just to name a few. Get your tickets, you don't wanna miss it. You should roll through, talking politics to health and self-improvement to investing. So many things, not one thing. Learn how to live life unchained, yeah. 4 days vibing on the beach, time to connect. All about growth, way more than a conference. This is Anarchapulco, yeah. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing yet.